All right, guys, we are back. Another day, another day. Brandon is still away. We've got Erin with us from Free UFC Bet Picks. Erin, tell everyone we did this already. We're doing it again. We did it for the undercard, which is going to be on the Patreon. So if you guys subscribe to the Patreon, you guys are going to see all of our breakdowns of the full undercard there. Here on YouTube, you are getting the main card. Erin, say hello. Tell everyone where they can find you and what you're doing.
Hey everybody, thanks for being here. Glad to be here. Big fan of this show. Most folks know me from Instagram. We put out a lot of content there, including the fight card, so folks can make their picks on it. I mentioned in the undercard video, I'm a big fan of Santino. I've got his book behind me. It's a damn good book. You got to read it. Got to read his memoir. Yeah, I've been breaking down fights for a few years. Every now and then we'll do a YouTube video, but it's a lot of work. Kudos to you, Santino, for getting this thing out every single week. People don't realize how much work it is.
Yeah, and if you guys don't follow Erin, do it right now. Link will be in the show notes and everything. But what he does is he will collect all of the cappers. How many cappers are there in the space that you collect?
24.
Okay, so there's 24 right now. What he does, he gets a graphic of the fight card, and he will put basically little icons for everyone who is on whichever fighter. So in the main event, we've got Erin Blanchfield and Maycee Barber. Jeez. So if it's like, all right, 10 people are on Maycee Barber and then 14 people are on Blanchfield, you'll kind of categorize it out so people can kind of see who's on who. And then you don't have to go through 500 shows to get all of your picks. You kind of aggregate, you let everyone know. And then if you guys want to go and watch any of the individual stuff, of course you can. But that is really helpful. Was it you that used to do the stat sheet as well? The Google document, was that your stuff as well? Or was that somebody else?
I don't think, there must be somebody else. I do a really detailed written article with all the links to the fight tape. So people really like the article, and it takes like 20 hours. It's very detailed, but and some stats sprinkled in there, but no spreadsheet or anything.
Okay. Well, thanks for coming on. Brandon should be back next week. Well, I don't even know next week, like 2 weeks from now, because we're actually shooting this a little bit early for the following card. We're actually doing this a week early. So Brandon will be back at some point. I don't know if he's going to come in full, like shaved head, new look. Maybe he comes in with a wig. Maybe he comes in shaved head. Maybe he's super emo, painting his nails again. Who knows what version of Brandon we're going to get, but he'll be back here soon for everybody. Well, let's get into this main card.
I'm predicting blonde hair. We're going to see a Charles Oliveira version.
I like that. A blonde-haired Brandon. I actually only want him back if he's going to have like platinum blonde hair. I'm in. Well, the first fight on this main card that is headlined by Erin Blanchfield and Maycee Barber is going to be Zach Reese versus Duško Todorović. Duško is 12-5. Zach Reese is 8-2. And we recently saw Zach Reese lose to Azamat Bakoev with some ground and pound. And then we've seen Duško lose every which way you can lose in the UFC. But he's actually not bad for his, he's 2-5 or 3-5 in the UFC. But for being an unathletic bag of milk, he is actually decent. He's as good as you can get for being as bad as he is. And I don't mean that to be an asshole. It's just he's a lot better than his record. And Zach Reese is -270 and Duško is +230. Who do you think wins this fight and why?
I think Zach Reese, but I think the line is a little bit wide. Sometimes he's a little too content to play off his back, and it's cost him a couple times. It cost him when he was going for an armbar on Cody Brundage. It cost him, playing on bottom against Bakoev last fight. But he throws heavy. He's a big dude, good jiu-jitsu, decent striking, southpaw striker. He's going to be much bigger here than Duško. I totally agree that I think Duško is a little underrated. He's almost like, made fun of because he's had some durability concerns. He's hittable. He has like 12% takedown success. But I think if he can get on top, he does have pretty solid ground and pound. And like I said, Zach might be content to play the jiu-jitsu game. So I do think Zach Reese is going to get it done. But, Zach also has some durability concerns, been KO'd in both losses. I think we're absolutely going to see a violent finish here. I think these guys are both good targets if you're playing like daily fantasy lineups. I think you got to have this fight in there. And it should be short and fun. And that's the way I like to live.
Yeah, short and fun. So you're going with Zach Reese. Do you think submission or KO?
I think they're both live, honestly.
I know.
I'm leaning towards KO because that's often how we see Duško lose, right? And I don't think, that Duško's going to get him down, even though that's what Duško should try to do. So, but I could see, a club and sub type of thing. I could see a standing back take for Reese. So I'm struggling on a prop here, but, Reese inside the distance.
Yeah, we saw Reese recently against Jose Medina where he beat him, and Medina is just the best heavy bag I've ever seen in my life. He's like the most durable heavy bag on the planet, and he wouldn't die. And then Reese still looked good throughout. Like even around 2 and 3, he was tired from beating Medina, but it was never like, oh man, Medina almost came back and won. He stayed the front runner. And then Duško, like you said, his wrestling is not great, but his jiu-jitsu is not bad. And I don't even want to say traditional jiu-jitsu. Let's get rid of that term right there. His grappling is not bad. He attacks good front chokes. He attacks, he'll scramble well in some of those positions. And who did he, but he's beaten Maki Pitolo and Jordan Wright. And honestly, Jordan Wright was mauling him. And then Jordan Wrighted and just quit. Just got tired. It's not even like he's death gassing. He just decides, he's like, I'm out. Like he just decides to stop fighting, which is amazing to me. Recently, Mansour knocked him out. Leroy Duncan knocked him out. Chidi knocked him out. Anybody with a little bit of speed puts Duško out. And I think you're right. I think Zach Reese is the smart play. I think Zach Reese inside the distance is a smart play. And I think you're right that it worries me because I don't think Zach Reese has some durability issues as well. And then his takedown defense and willingness to play off the back makes this such a closer fight than it should be. If Zach Reese had any takedown defense and would do anything to get back up to his feet, he'd be a minus 800 here. But just those two things alone worry me about it. I think Zach Reese is the play, but gosh, I feel like it's on shaky legs a little bit just because of the fight IQ of Zach Reese. Not even the durability, but the fight IQ of Zach Reese. But I do think he's going to come away with a win.
Yeah, well said. In the Christian Leroy Duncan fight, Duško was getting cage controlled. CLD looked really strong in the cage clinch there. So I think that might be a good avenue for Zach to take. You pointed out in that Medina fight, we actually cashed the plus 650 Zach Reese decision prop because we knew about Medina's crazy durability from his Contender Series fight where he took a beating and still got signed. So, I have fond memories of that decision win, and yeah, he looked good throughout there, didn't gas or anything. And a lot of times that can be the concern with these guys who are great finishers, right? Especially big for the division. I assume he cuts quite a bit of weight. I think he checks most of the boxes. Just the durability and the fight IQ are a little bit concerning. But I'll definitely have Reese in a couple little plays for sure, including the inside the distance.
Okay. Next up, we've got the Haney kid. What is that? What is the Haney-ac?
Like I never knew what his Instagram was. The Hanyak DJ, I know.
Yeah, Hanyak.
Dustin Jacoby. No idea. It sounds Hawaiian or something to me.
Yeah. I don't know what that is. If you guys know what it is, throw it in the comments. But we have Dustin Jacoby. He's 37 years old. He's 8-6 in the UFC. He recently beat Vitor Petrino, Asta Dominic Reyes, and Alonzo Menefield. And on the other side of that, we have Bruno Lopes, who recently beat Magomed Gadzia Sulov. And another name on Contender Series I'm not even going to try and say. And then Jacoby is minus 170. Bruno Lopes is plus 145. I like Jacoby. And I like Jacoby's movement. I like his style. He's very hittable and he's getting older. And for as high-level kickboxing as Jacoby has, he has kind of, I don't want to say bad fundamentals because he's good and everyone knows he's good, but he leaves his hands really low and he tip taps. He does the Factory X style striking. And that's shift, move, low kicks, like touch, paw, like feelers, and then go. And because of that, he gets hit a lot and he leaves his hands low and his chin out. And he has kind of this almost like a wooden horse style stance where he's kind of like galloping, clip-clopping around. And it's not bad necessarily, but stylistically, against a guy who's going to sit down and throw big overhands, I think it's worrisome. And then you have, how old is Lopes? 32. And he's 14-1, and he has not taken the damage that Dustin Jacoby has. And I think Jacoby's striking is actually what is going to get him in trouble in most fights moving forward, because I think he's a little slower. I think his hands are a little lower, and I don't think he has the chin that he used to have. I think where he does well actually is in the clinch, and I think he controls the clinch really well. And I think, like we talked about, who did we talk about? Oban Elliott on the undercard. Jacoby does a really good job of digging underhooks and turning people, and he uses his height, and he controls that position well. And we saw that against Michael Oleksiejczak a while ago, who's a good overall fighter, but pressures and is really well rounded. And Jacoby, I thought, won that fight in the clinch in a lot of those positions. I'm going to go with Lopes here for the upset for the underdog win.
It's a tough one. Jacoby's hard to predict. I was on Vitor Petrino last fight, and he was looking, he was cruising and then gets caught. Jacoby can end the fight at any time with that power. He's, good kickboxer, like he broke down. I think Oleg Sachak was pretty undersized there, right? Has since moved down. We've seen Jacoby hurt. He was having trouble closing the distance against Azamat Murzakanov and got dropped a couple times there, but, has the ability to bounce back. He's a pretty durable dude. He's been taken down by some guys who aren't exactly monster wrestlers. Kudalaba took him down 8 times, but he gassed, and Jacoby won the second half of the fight. Jacoby does have good get-ups. I think Bruno's a little, overrated. I was wrong. I was pretty confident in Gajiasulov last fight, and then Bruno just cage controlled him. It was a really boring win, but a really, high IQ win. To your point, I don't think Bruno's going to be able to cage control Jacoby like he did Gajiasulov. Gajiasulov's kind of undersized as well. I think the reason I'll go Jacoby is I just don't think Bruno's striking is that great. He's got a good top game, multiple arm triangle wins, and he's got decent striking, decent footwork, good low kick. He's a Muay Thai black belt. He throws nice step-in knees and nice elbows. He's got diversity in his attack, that Muay Thai background. But his hands aren't real fast. He really kind of telegraphs stuff and airballs quite a bit. Airballs, spinning back elbows. I think he's kind of sloppy in the pocket, and during exchanges, he's dropping his hands while he's throwing punches. I think he's counterable. I think Jacoby can counter him here. On that Contender Series fight, it's Sejiniani, Mikhail Sejiniani, I think.
Yeah.
He was not looking good. Bruno was not looking good until Mikhail absolutely gassed. If you watch back that Contender Series fight, I think Bruno was kind of lucky that Mikhail death gassed. One of the worst gas jobs you'll find. Otherwise, Bruno wouldn't even be in the UFC now. And then he cage controlled an undersized Magomed and got a win. So I think, I was kind of hoping Jacoby might be an underdog here. I know he had that big come from behind win against Petrino, but I thought people might be higher on Bruno. I'm probably not going to play it with, whatever Jacoby is, minus 160, I think I saw last night. But I think Jacoby can crack him in the pocket.
Okay. So Jacoby for the winner. And we are moving along to the next fight on the card, which is Hyun Ko versus Billy Ray Goff. And Goff is 9-3. Ko is 11-2. And the odds on this are Billy Goff is minus 140 and Ko is plus 120. Give me your thoughts on this one first, and then we'll see where we're at.
Sounds good. I think if you can bet fight of the night, I think this has fight of the night written all over it. Billy Ray Goff is one of the most exciting fighters. I really like watching him. He's a good finisher, but mostly he's just a nonstop pressure, in your face, incessant. He's a really fast starter. He never just stands at range, feinting or thinking. If you're standing at range, he's just going to keep peppering low kicks. And then he flashes up a really nice front kick, which is kind of hidden. It looks a lot like his low kick. He doesn't have to set up his front kick. He'll throw a ton of low kicks and front kicks. In the pocket, he's just smothering with punches and then shooting double legs. He's he'll wear you out. I do think we saw his cardio fade, in part because of that incessant attack against Trey Waters. The first 90 seconds, Goff just looked like a world beater. And then literally 90 seconds in, he was looking a little tired and Trey started landing on him. He's got pretty good back takes typically, but he wasn't able to get the hooks in on Trey Waters. But he's gritty, durable. He'll fight for your dollar. Trey Waters landed a blatantly illegal knee on him. And not only did Goff not blink or get hurt, he didn't even look at the ref. He didn't even complain at all. He just got up and started pressuring Waters like he always does. Seok Ko is kind of a karate style striker to me. Lots of movement, wide stance, kind of hands out. He likes to snipe with overhands quite a bit. Every now and then, he'll throw kind of some Diaz style punches where he's not sitting down on him. They're really straight. He'll throw a jab and then the right is literally being thrown while the left is still landing. He'll throw a 1-2 in a very peppering style. Solid in the clinch, good body knees, good low kicks. I think this is a tough one. I think Goff was just so undersized against Trey Waters, and now he's going to have a guy his size here with Hyun Ko. I'll mention that Seok has been fighting absolute cans. So he was able to wrestle, he got 6 minutes of control time on Contender Series against Igor Cavalcante. That's still Cavalcante's only loss. Since that fight, Cavalcante's won 3 fights. So it's a decent win. But before that, Seok was fighting a 41-year-old who was 7-7 and not shredded. And before that, he was fighting a 51-year-old in Sakurai. So I think Goff has just been fighting far better guys. I think judges are really going to like his style and his volume. It really just comes down to his cardio. So I'm going to go with Goff. It might be a good live betting opportunity for Seok. You know, if Goff wins round one and he's minus 350, minus 400, you know, Seok might be worth a play. And I think like the Seok plus 3.5 round spread, it's probably going to be like minus 160 or something, you know, not great, but I think this is a 29-28 written all over it. I think Goff probably wins the first 2 rounds.
Okay. Man, I love watching Goff. Like, he's a fun guy to watch. And he actually, I wish I knew his background because he looks like he has some actual boxing experience versus MMA striking, kickboxing experience. And you see that one way that you can almost always tell if somebody has boxing experience just in the UFC. Watch like a Cody Garbrandt. That's an example that we know where he will throw a jab and he doesn't back out the way that a lot of MMA fighters do. He throws a jab and then he dips down and he stays low and he puts that shoulder in. He throws a right hand and he dips. And a lot of boxers are going to dip the shoulder in, and then because in boxing, you're going to dip that shoulder in and you're low. And then of course you can counter or you can start rolling your head. And Goff does both of those things a lot. He throws, he'll dip, and then he kind of sees what's going to happen, and then he'll either come up throwing or he'll roll and he'll actually exit out. He does have the good low kicks as well. His volume is out of control, like crazy at first. And I think the Trey Waters thing, Trey Waters is like 30 feet tall. I think you have to go in that fight going, how do I get in there? How do I get on the inside? And you have to waste a lot of energy doing it. And I don't think that is indicative of his actual cardio. I think he will slow down, but not to the extent that he did in that fight, because that was how do I win here? Like, what do I do? I have to get in there. You've got to swing. So it's going to happen. And then Ko, you said it. He likes to fire that overhand over the top. A lot of the Koreans right now, we just had Korean Tiger. We've had Korean Zombie. They all try to emulate Zombie. Every Korean fighter there is. They stand there square, leave their head there. It's, hey, look, it's a carrot. It's dangling. Come get it. And then they try to pull back, fire the right hand over the top, or left hand in Ko's sake, because I think he's a southpaw. But isn't he? Is he a southpaw or am I crazy there?
Yep, southpaw.
He is, yeah. And Ko does it. He stands square, and he tries to pull and fire that straight left or overhand, whatever you want to call it from there. But that's kind of all he does. Like, and then he'll swat some punches, but he's pretty low volume himself. And he's waiting to catch these people. With Goff and his pressure and his body work against the southpaw, I think he's going to come in and be ripping low kicks and then body work and coming up. I really like Goff here, and I think it's going to be a good fight. But I really like Goff for the win.
Nice. Glad to hear, yeah.
And yeah, he's just a fun guy to watch, man. Like, he really is. All right, next up, we have our co-main event. We have Mateusz Gamrot against Ľudovít Klein. And Mateusz is 24-3. He is 34 years old. He lost a split decision to Dan Hooker. He lost to Benny Dariush, and he lost to Guram Kutateladze, who I think is one of the best fighters to not figure it out to have ever fought. Like, Guram, man, he came in and I just got to sidebar this really quickly. I think he's 2-2, 2-3 in the UFC. He lost to Kyle Fernandez, Elvis Brenner. Both of those blew my freaking mind. Lost a split to Demir, and he beat Gamrot. I mean, the guy is just phenomenal. I don't know if it's a weight cut or what, but gosh, I loved freaking Kutateladze, and here we are. On the other side, we have Ľudovít Klein, 23-4, very similar records. He's 7-2 in the UFC. He lost to Nate Landwehr and Mike Trezano, both at 145. The Landwehr fight, though, that was typical Landwehr. Like, hey, let's go get tired and go full adrenaline, and then you're dead, and I'm still standing. So other than that, man, especially since he moved up to 55, he's been a world beater. Honestly, one of his most impressive wins was against Ignacio Bahamondes, who's, I think he's listed 6'2", 6'3", and Ľudovít's got to be 5'7", 5'8". But Gamrot's minus 155, and Ľudovít is plus 135. Am I up? Are you up? Did I go first? No, yeah, I'm up. I'm confused about this fight a little bit. I just don't know. Gamrot is Gamrot, and I hold him in very high regard. But he is beating. He's fighting really high level people. He fought Rafael Dos Anjos, Rafael Fiziev. That was a weird one. Jalen Turner fight he took on like a day notice, and he's going life and death with Dan Hooker, and the Benny Dariush upset I think was one of the most impressive things I've seen in a really long time. Did I go over the odds? Gamrot's minus 155. Gamrot's wrestling's amazing. he has European style. And what I mean by that is I talk about this a lot on the podcast. A lot of American wrestlers lock their hands on single legs or use their hands on double legs, like the actual palms of their hands. And Gamrot does not. And if you watch him tie a single leg, he hugs it to his body with his left hand. He's grabbing the ankle with his right hand. He's grabbing above the knee. And that really limits the amount of space. And then he drags people down and back and will do a lot of backside doubles and ankle ties and then climb his way back up. His control is amazing. And I love watching him wrestle, and I love watching him chain wrestle. Lately, though, I feel like he's not the same as, I feel like his cardio has gone down, or I don't know if it's because he's fighting a higher level of competition, but he seems to be struggling to maintain that pressure in those later rounds. And then his striking is not, it's getting better, but it definitely leaves a lot to be desired. He's got a good jab. He knows how to not get hit too much early, but once he starts getting a little tired, then he starts to get pieced up a little bit more, as you would expect somebody in their area where they're not the experts, you know. And then Ľudovít does everything freaking well. I mean, the left middle kick, the left high kick, he wrestles well, and he's got good cardio. And that is the crazy thing here. When I'm looking at this fight as to who's winning, I'm going, where's the cardio breakdown? Gamrot wins round 1, I think, just with wrestling. And then in round 2, he wrestles, but is he hurting him? Can he submit him? And if he doesn't, at what point is Ľudovít doing the right stuff to get back to his feet and scramble and start damaging? And then round 3, if it's still going on, does Ľudovít have a lot more energy, and is he landing some good strikes in the transition? And I just wonder, like, how much better is Gamrot's wrestling than Ľudovít's in relation to their cardio? Because if Gamrot's wrestling really is that much better, well, then it's going to be easy for him to find these takedowns. It's not going to be a cardio burn. He's not going to be killing himself doing it. And that's, to me, the difference here in this fight, or the variables that I'm looking at. Gamrot is durable, and Jalen's not putting him out. Dan Hooker's not putting him out. I do think he's going to be able to, like, wrap up Ľudovít and just kind of strangle him, not actually choke him, but just suffocate him and just blanket him for enough time to win 2 rounds. But it wouldn't surprise me to see Ľudovít start really coming on late in the second and the third round, really doing a lot of damage. I'm picking Gamrot for the win, but man, Ľudovít I think is really good, and I think he is getting better and better. And I think we've seen the best of Gamrot. And I think Gamrot is not, I think Gamrot is on the decline. I think Ľudovít is on the way up. I just don't think they've crossed that mark yet.
It's a good breakdown. I'm struggling with this one too. When we think of Gamrot, we think of a perennial contender. And when we think of Klein, we think of kind of a rough around the edges, improving, powerful up-and-comer, right? And like, based on their resumes, you would think that Gamrot would be a much bigger favorite. Problem with Gamrot, as we know, is he's hittable and droppable. He gets dropped in every fight. I mean, Dan Hooker dropped him. If you look at UFCstats.com, I don't think it shows that knockdown, but Hooker absolutely knocked him down in round 1. And then, like UFC Stats doesn't show it, but Hooker knocked him down. When Gamrot was able to get Hooker down, Hooker was able to pop right back up. And so that's not a great look. I try not to read into this too much, but, you know, Gamrot did have quite the flight there, right? Like, he fights out of Coconut Creek, Florida with Dustin Poirier and ATT guys. In this scenario, it's Klein that's going to have the big flight from Slovakia. So I wonder, you fight in Australia, like the middle of the night in terms of what your body feels like, you know, fighting against that crowd. Hooker's a tall guy, you know. Initially I thought I was just going to be all over Klein, but then I paused and didn't press the button, you know, and I'm just so torn. But I was like, if Dan Hooker can fight off those takedowns, Klein is much stronger than Dan Hooker. Klein has 91% takedown defense, but I think that 91% takedown defense is a little bit misleading. You know, like Thiago Moises really contributed to that by going 0-for-8, because even like Jai Herbert was able to get Klein down. And both Jai and Nate Landwehr, when they got him down, they had some, you know, decent control time. Klein doesn't have the best get-ups like Dan Hooker has really good get-ups.
Yeah.
Klein was a minus 1,000 in his last fight over Roosevelt Roberts and lost round 1. Had to wrestle, you know, Roosevelt Roberts. And Roosevelt's a decent striker, really tall. So I get it. You know, it's not a bad idea to wrestle him, but everyone was thinking Klein was going to go in there and starch him because he'd been hurting guys. You know, he hurt Thiago Moises bad. He hurt AJ Cunningham bad. Like, he looked fast against Ignacio Bahamondes. He didn't have to grapple him, really. He had him hurt, and Ignacio was, like, pulling guard on him. So, you know, we go into that Roosevelt Roberts fight thinking that Klein is just going to absolutely hurt this guy, and far from it. So I'm really struggling. I do tend to wonder if Gamrot's plateaued or perhaps started the decline a tiny bit. See him get dropped all the time, see him unable to hold down Dan Hooker, but I can't help but let that long flight to Australia kind of creep into my mind and wonder if we're going to see a better version of Gamrot here. He just needs to not get knocked out. And I think we're going to see that 91% takedown defense of Klein take a hit, because Klein hasn't really fought any really good wrestlers in the UFC. So I think it's a tad misleading. Really tough fight to pick. Gamrot is a little taller. Klein's got the reach. I thought Gamrot, his striking actually looked okay against Dan Hooker. He was landing some nice counter rights. His striking was looking okay. Not great, but okay. He wasn't overly desperate for takedowns at the beginning of the fight. He was content to strike with Dan at the beginning. But then Dan was really putting it on him, and Gamrot was going for crappy takedowns, on his knees. If that same scenario plays out, Klein's going to hurt him. And the judges aren't going to like it when Gamrot's shooting desperation takedowns. So really tough fight to pick. In this scenario, I'm inclined to go with the dog, right? Kind of want to keep my eye on the line movement. If Gamrot gets wide enough, I'll go Gamrot. But I can't help but imagine that we see a levels type of fight here where Gamrot pushes him back down the rankings a little bit.
Okay. Now we've got
I'll go Gamrot.
Okay. All right. We're on it. Main event time. Before you guys hear us talk about the main event, go to the Patreon, sign up, go to on Instagram for UFC bet picks, follow Erin, go to his Patreon, sign up as well. A lot of work goes into a lot of the stuff that we do, and we're getting, whatever. It's not about the money. It's not about the money. It's about the love. But if you guys want to show us some love, of course, on the Patreon and Discord, Brandon and I give you all of our UFC picks. Brandon has BKFC and a bunch of the regional shows as well. So if you're not a member, come sign up. And then, of course, you get the full undercard of this fight as well, broken down there. So main event time. Are you super stoked about this wild, amazing Apex main event? Erin Blanchfield and Maycee Barber. It's actually good. I'm messing. It's actually decent. It's actually a good fight. These two are actually fun to watch. Maycee Barber is plus 175 and Erin Blanchfield is minus 205. Erin Blanchfield is 13-2 and Maycee Barber is 14-2. I want to look at the last couple of fights. Blanchfield is now, she is young. She's 26 years old. She's 7-1 in the UFC. Her only loss is to recent title challenger Manon Fiorot. And Maycee Barber is 14-2. She is 9-2 in the UFC. And her losses are to Roxanne Modafferi, where she tore her ACL. So that's a little misleading. And then Alexa Grasso, who's a former champ. Neither of these women are finishing a lot of fights. Most of them are going to decision. But they both have, they're both very strong and powerful and can finish. They just don't have a lot of finishes. It's women's MMA. Guest, Erin, give us a breakdown on this fight, and then I will finish up this card for us.
Right on. I'll go with Blanchfield. I think we've seen worse wrestlers take Maycee down. And we've seen Erin get takedowns over Namajunas, who has 61% takedown defense. She wasn't able to get Manon down, really, but she has stellar 93% takedown defense. We've seen Blanchfield take down girls with better takedown defense, and we've seen Maycee be taken down by girls with worse wrestling offense. So I think it's a pretty straightforward fight. But on the feet, it's Maycee all day. Blanchfield's decent on the feet, diverse kicks, but she's just really slow. And I don't think she's mean on the feet. Maycee is mean on the feet, and I mean that in a very complimentary way. Even if you've got her against the cage and you're going for a takedown, she will frame off and bash your nose. She's trying to hurt you with everything she does, and it pays off. She did a ton of damage to Amanda Ribas. I think anybody beating Caitlin Sormanara, I still think that's a fine feather in your cap. Maycee looked good, so she's been improving. She's perhaps a little more athletic here and fights with more vicious intent, especially on the feet. But I think it's a pretty binary fight and, kind of a simple breakdown. I've tried poking holes in this Erin's going to get takedowns idea, but I really can't. The more I think about it, the more I look into it and all their background, all their previous fights. I think the proof is in the pudding that Blanchfield should be able to get her down.
Yeah, it really... It comes down to the grappling and it comes down to the takedowns. But we did see Erin Blanchfield recently with Talia Santos. Do you remember that fight? Mm-hmm. Where a lot of cage pushing, Talia's trying to swing on the outside, Blanchfield pushing her to the fence. And I see that as being this fight. I don't know that, Maycee's physical and Erin is physical, but I think Maycee is going to be one of the more, I don't know, man, Talia Santos is pretty damn physical as well. So, Blanchfield did well there. Maycee's up in Colorado training. She's not an alpha male anymore. I wonder how much of her time is spent wrestling. And I wonder how much of her time is spent standing up. And one of the criticisms that I've had with a lot of the Colorado teams, Factory X, they do a great, their takedown defense has actually gotten a lot better recently, and their grappling has gotten a lot better. But for a while, that was kind of a hole that they were being taken down. Their striking was great. And then with these other gyms, it's kind of like, I don't know that there's even coaches or practices. It's just people kind of shuffling around from gym to gym and training. And I worry about that because then you're not getting like systematic improvement with your skills. And who knows? I mean, it's been a while since Maycee has fought. When was her last fight? She's been out for a bit. That was Sermonara in March of last year. So she's looking at 15-ish months, 14 months since she's fought. And she's been away from the team, you know, her alpha male for a while. We know they wrestle. We know where they're at. And Blanchfield is just a dog. She's just in your face, and she's going to push you to the fence. If she can get the takedown, great, but she's going to push you to the fence. She's going to have to get punched on her way in because Maycee is a lot faster. She's a lot more athletic, and she hits a hell of a lot harder. But Blanchfield's striking, I don't even want to say it's gotten better. She's just gotten better at not getting hit, like, on her way in. So, you know what I mean? If that makes any sense at all. Because it's not like she's throwing great ones and twos and slipping. She's just tight, hands up, crowds the pocket, knows what she's going to do. And then, man, I know Erin's the A side here in terms of like the takedowns. I just wonder if she can't get the takedown, is she going to be able to out-bully Maycee, who is a good cage bully? And I could actually see that being a lot of issues there. I thought Maycee lost to Miranda Maverick back in the day.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a really close fight. And I think that Erin has fought the much better competition. I think Talia Santos is a good like comparison fight to Maycee Barber in terms of physicality, speed, hands, and she found a way to win that. So I got to go Blanchfield. She also has good elbows and knees in the clinch, and if she gets on top, she is a horse. So I think Erin has more ways to win, and I think a 5-round fight benefits her. I think she's got to really be careful in round 1 and 2 with Maycee's power and speed, but I do like Erin for the win, and she's durable as shit too. So it's going to be hard to put her away, and when you're punching her and she's just stalking you down and pushing you against the fence, I think that's going to wear on Maycee, especially being away for as long as she has been. So I'm going Blanchfield, I think by decision because it's women's MMA. Even if I thought it was going to be a knockout, I would say decision because it's women's MMA. And then when a knockout occurs, we're all shocked, like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened because it's women's MMA. But all right, Erin Blanchfield for the win.
Yeah, neither girl's ever been finished. I like betting overs because then if you lose your bet, at least you got to see a finish.
Yeah.
The most torturous thing in MMA betting is when you bet a fight to not go the distance. A lot of people are parlaying them up. People are parlaying like Sabatini versus Brito not to go the distance. I remember when Alex Pereira versus Bruno Silva was like minus 700 not to go the distance. I never touch those because I will break a TV if, you know, I really need someone to get a finish here and they're just cage controlling. So anyway, I'll be parlaying some overs here. I know it's going to be chalky. I got to end on kind of like a light note. I got to make fun of Erin Blanchfield a tiny bit. Like, this isn't even the funniest thing in the world, but this just sticks with me forever because it's so goofy. And fighters will say some goofy stuff, right? The goofiest thing I've ever heard is when Erin Blanchfield was like, I have to be champion in 2023 because I'm 23 years old. It's like the stars are aligning. It's serendipitous. It's like, I was like, girl, didn't you realize when you were like 4 years old in 2004 that you're going to be that age? Every year you're going to be that age. Like, I think she was born in 2000, which makes me just depressed and feel super old because I can remember the year 2000. But Erin Blanchfield thinking that 2023 was her year to become champ because she happened to be 23 years old. The goofiest thing I've ever heard.
Well, if she does win a title, it will be serendipitous because she'll be as old as the year.
Yep.
And we all know how that works. MMA math, folks. All right, we are out of here. You guys have a good one. It's been a pleasure, and we'll see you next time.